Use a warm, empathetic Tonima sat alone in her small London flat, surrounded by white envelopes scattered across her kitchen table. Each envelope contained the same heartbreaking message. Visa application denied. She picked up one letter and read it again, even though she knew every word by heart. The official stamp seemed to mock her dreams of seeing the world beyond England. At 25, Emma worked as a freelance graphic designer most days. She barely earned enough money to pay her rent and buy food. Her tiny apartment had one bedroom, a small kitchen, and a living room that doubled as her office. The walls were covered with travel posters of places she had never seen. New York's bright lights, Australia's golden beaches, Canada's snow-covered mountains. Emma's parents, Michael and Linda, lived in the same neighborhood where she had grown up. They were good people who worked hard their entire lives, but they had never left England. They could not understand why their daughter wanted to spend money on travel when she struggled to make ends meet. Emma, you need to be realistic. Her father Michael would say during their weekly phone calls, stop wasting money on these visa applications. Find a proper job with a steady income. Travel is for rich people, not for people like us. Her mother Linda was gentler but equally worried. Sweetheart, I know you have big dreams, but maybe you should focus on building a stable life here first. Marriage, a house, children. These are the things that matter. But Emma felt trapped in her small world. Every morning, she woke up in the same bed, walked the same streets, and sat at the same desk. She dreamed of breathing different air, seeing different sunsets, meeting people from different cultures. She had applied for visas to America, Australia, and Canada multiple times. Each rejection felt like a personal failure, as if the world was telling her she was not good enough to explore it. Her savings account showed exactly £312, money she had saved by eating simple meals and buying second-hand clothes. Most visa applications cost between £100 and £200, and that was just for the application fee. If she got approved, she would need thousands more for flights, hotels, and daily expenses. On a particularly cold evening in January, Emma felt more lonely and defeated than ever. She had just received another rejection letter from the Canadian embassy. She made herself a cup of tea and sat at her computer, browsing travel websites through blurry eyes filled with tears. As she scrolled through beautiful photos of distant places, something caught her attention. A small article title read, "Countries that welcome British travelers without visas." Emma clicked on it, expecting to find maybe 2 or 3 small islands she had never heard of. Instead, she found a list that made her heart race with excitement. Malaysia with its modern cities and ancient temples, Turkey with its rich history and delicious food, the Maldives with crystal-clear waters and white sand beaches, Qatar with its impressive architecture and warm hospitality, Mauritius with its colorful culture and stunning landscapes, Nepal with its towering mountains and spiritual traditions. Emma read the article 3 times to make sure she was not dreaming. These countries welcomed British passport holders without visa applications, without fees, without rejections. She could simply buy a plane ticket and go. For the first time in months, Em smiled. She wiped away her tears and started researching. Flights, a ticket to Malaysia cost less than her rent. She could afford it with her savings. She could actually afford to make her dreams come true. She called her best friend Sarah, who lived in Manchester. "Sarah, I think I'm going to do something crazy," Emma said, her voice shaking with excitement and fear. "What kind of crazy?" Sarah asked, concerned. "I'm going to travel. I'm going to see the world. I found countries that don't require visas, and I can afford to go. Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Emma, are you sure? What if something goes wrong? What if you run out of money? What if I don't try?" Emma replied, "What if I spend my whole life wondering what could have been?" That night, Emma could not sleep. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about her decision. She was scared, but also more excited than she had felt in years. She thought about her parents' worried faces, her small savings account, and all the things that could go wrong. But she also thought about the feeling of stepping off a plane in a country she had never seen, eating food she had never tasted, and meeting people she had never imagined. She thought about proving to herself that dreams were not just for other people. As the sun rose over London, Emma made her decision. She would take her savings and visit these countries. She would prove to herself, and to everyone who doubted her, that dreams were worth chasing. Use a warm, empathetic tone. 3 weeks passed quickly after Emma made her decision. She spent those weeks planning her trip, buying a small backpack and trying to calm her nervous excitement. She had never been on a plane before, never left England, never been so far from home. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. The morning of her departure, Emma woke up before her alarm clock. She had barely slept, her mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. She checked her small suitcase for the 10th time, making sure she had her passport, her phone charger, and the guidebook she had bought about Malaysia. Her parents, Michael and Linda, arrived at her flat early to drive her to Heathrow Airport. The car ride was quiet, filled with unspoken worries and hopes. Emma sat in the back seat, watching the familiar streets of London pass by, wondering when she would see them again. At the airport, the three of them stood awkwardly in the departure area. Emma had never seen her parents look so worried and proud at the same time. Her mother Linda kept adjusting Emma's jacket and checking that she had everything she needed. "Promise me you'll call us every day," Linda said, her voice shaking slightly. "And eat proper meals. Don't talk to strangers who seem dangerous." Her father Michael cleared his throat and pulled out his wallet. He handed Emma £50 in cash, "just in case you need it," he said in his gruff voice. But Emma could see the love and concern in his eyes. "We're proud of you, even if we don't understand why you need to do this." Emma hugged both her parents tightly, feeling like a little girl again. "I'll be careful," she promised, "and I'll call you as soon as I land." Walking through airport security felt like crossing into a different world. Emma had never been in such a busy, international place. She heard languages she could not identify, saw people from countries she had only read about, and felt both scared and amazed. The boarding lounge was crowded with travelers heading to Kuala Lumpur. Emma sat clutching her boarding pass, watching planes take off through the large windows. Her hands were shaking with nervousness and excitement. This was really happening. She was really doing this. The flight to Malaysia took 13 hours. Emma had chosen a window seat, and she spent most of the journey with her face pressed against the small window, watching the world change below her. She saw the lights of European cities grow smaller, then the vast darkness of the ocean, then the golden sunrise over Asia. When the plane began its descent into Kuala Lumpur, Emma felt her heart racing. The city below looked enormous, with tall buildings reaching toward the sky and roads that seemed to go on forever. Everything looked different from London. The colors were brighter, the architecture was unfamiliar, and the landscape was green and tropical. At immigration, Emma handed over her passport with trembling hands. The officer looked at her British passport, stamped it with a loud thud, and smiled. "Welcome to Malaysia," he said warmly. "No visa application, no interview, no rejection, just a simple welcome." Emma walked out of the airport into the hot, humid air of Kuala Lumpur. The heat hit her immediately, along with the sounds of a busy Asian city, car horns, people talking in different languages, and the general buzz of millions of people living their lives. She took a deep breath and smiled. She had done it. She was really here. She took a taxi to a small hotel in the city center, watching the strange and wonderful sights pass by her window. The buildings were different. The signs were in languages she could not read, and the people looked different from anyone she knew back home. But instead of feeling scared, Emma felt excited. Everything was new and full of possibilities. The next morning, Emma went to a small cafe near her hotel for breakfast. She was still feeling overwhelmed by everything round her when she noticed a man sitting alone at a corner table. He was sketching the busy street scene outside, and she could tell from his appearance that he was probably British. The man looked up and caught her staring. He smiled and waved her over. "First time in Malaysia?" he asked, noticing the way she was looking round with wide eyes. Emma felt embarrassed but nodded. "First time anywhere, really," she admitted. The man laughed kindly. "I'm James," he said, extending his hand. "And I was exactly the same 5 years ago. Lost my job, felt like a complete failure, and didn't know what to do with my life. These visa-free countries saved me. They showed me that the world was much bigger than my problems." James was in his 30s, with kind eyes and a relaxed manner that put Emma at ease. Over coffee and local pastries, he told her his story. He had been an accountant in Manchester, working long hours in a job he hated. When he was made redundant at 32, he fell into a deep depression. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, he had decided to take his severance pay and explore countries that welcomed British travelers without visas. The world is full of doors. James told Emma as they sat in that busy cafe. Some were locked, and we spent too much time trying to force them open. But many doors are wide open, waiting for us to walk through them. We just need the courage to try. Use warm. Empathetic Tonima had been in Malaysia for 2 weeks, and each day brought new discoveries that filled her heart with joy. She woke up every morning excited to explore the busy streets of Kuala Lumpur, eager to see something she had never seen before. Her confidence grew stronger with each passing day, and she began to feel like a real traveler instead of a scared tourist. She started carrying her small sketchbook everywhere she went. In the crowded street markets, she drew pictures of vendors selling colorful fruits and vegetables. She sketched the friendly faces of local people who smiled at her when she walked by. She spent hours drawing the beautiful mosques with their tall towers and the ancient temples with their intricate decorations. Her art came alive in ways it never had when she sat alone in her small London flat. The tropical colors of Malaysia inspired her drawings. The bright yellows of the durian fruit, the deep reds of the chili peppers, the golden light that filtered through the palm trees. Everything seemed more vibrant and alive than anything she had ever seen in England. Her sketches captured not just the sights, but the feeling of being in this amazing place. One evening, Emma decided to visit a famous night market in Penang, a city on the coast of Malaysia. The market was bustling with activity. Families eating dinner at plastic tables, children running between the food stalls, and the delicious smells of local cooking filling the air. Emma found a quiet corner and began sketching the scene. As she drew, a young Malaysian woman approached her. The woman had long black hair and wore a colorful dress. She looked at Emma's sketchbook with genuine interest and amazement. "Excuse me," the woman said in perfect English. "I couldn't help but notice your drawings. They're absolutely beautiful. You really capture the soul of our country." Emma looked up, surprised and pleased. "Thank you," she said, feeling a bit shy. "I'm Emma, and I'm from London. "I've never drawn anything like this before." The woman smiled warmly. "I'm Lily, and I'm a local artist here in Penang. Your work has something special about it. It shows." Malaysia through fresh eyes, but with real understanding and respect. "Would you like to collaborate on something special together?" Emma could hardly believe what she was hearing. A real artist wanted to work with her. She had never thought of herself as a real artist before, just someone who liked to draw as a hobby. Over the next few days, Emma and Lily spent hours together, creating a series of drawings that told the story of cultural exchange. They combined British and Malaysian elements in beautiful harmony. London's red telephone boxes next to Malaysian street food stalls, Big Ben reflected in the waters of the Petronas Twin Towers. English roses blooming alongside Malaysian orchids, local. Galleries in Penang began to notice their collaborative work. People stopped to look at their drawings displayed in coffee shops and small art spaces. For the first time in her life, Emma felt like a real artist, not just someone struggling to pay rent and wondering if her dreams would ever come true after spending a month in Malaysia. Emma felt ready for her next adventure. She had saved enough money to visit Turkey, another country that welcomed British travelers without a visa. She said goodbye to Lily with tears in her eyes, promising to keep in touch and continue their artistic collaboration from afar. In Istanbul, Emma was amazed by the city's incredible history and beauty. The ancient mosques, the busy bazaars, the Bosphorus Strait connecting Europe and Asia. Everything inspired her art in new ways. She began creating a new series of drawings that combined her Malaysia experiences with her Turkish discoveries. One day, while sketching in a cafe near the Blue Mosque, Emma received a message through social media. It was from Fatma, a Turkish woman who owned a small gallery in the historic district of Istanbul. Fatma had seen Emma's Malaysia-Turkey art series online and was impressed by her work. "Your art tells such a beautiful story," Fatma wrote. "Would you be interested in displaying your work in my gallery? I think people here would love to see how a British artist views our country and connects it with other cultures." Emma stared at the message for a long time, unable to believe what she was reading. Someone wanted to display her art in a real gallery. She had never shown her work publicly before, except for the small displays with Lily in Malaysia. A week later, Emma stood in Fatma's gallery, watching as they hung her paintings on the white walls. The gallery was small but beautiful, located in a historic building with high ceilings and large windows that let in the golden Istanbul sunlight. Art has no borders. Fatma told Emma as they positioned the last painting. "Your journey shows that creativity can flourish anywhere, with anyone. You're not just making art, you're building bridges between cultures." On the night of the exhibition, Emma stood nervously near the entrance, watching people file into the gallery. She had never been so scared and excited at the same time. Local people and tourists walked round, looking at her paintings and drawings with genuine interest. An elderly Turkish man spent a long time looking at one of her pieces that showed a British teacup sitting next to a Turkish coffee cup, with both surrounded by flowers from Malaysia. He approached Emma with tears in his eyes. "Your paintings remind me that we're all the same inside," he said in broken but heartfelt English. "Thank you for showing us this beauty." That night, Emma called her parents from her hotel room. "I'm not just traveling, Mom," she said, her voice full of emotion and wonder. "I'm finding out who I really am." Use a warm, empathetic tone while Emma was discovering herself through art in Turkey. Something unexpected was happening back home in Britain. She had been sharing her journey on social media and writing a simple blog about her experiences. She posted pictures of her artwork, stories about the kind people she met, and honest accounts of her fears and victories. She never expected anyone to pay much attention to her small adventures, but slowly, people began to notice her posts were being shared by friends, then by strangers who found her story inspiring. Young people across Britain started following her journey, reading about how she had overcome her fears and financial struggles to explore the world. Her honest writing about feeling stuck and dreaming of something bigger touched many hearts. Emma began receiving messages from people she had never met. Some were encouraging. Others were asking for advice, and many were sharing their own stories of feeling trapped by circumstances. Each message made Emma realize that she was not alone in her struggles. There were thousands of young people who felt the same way she had felt just months ago. One message particularly touched her heart. It came from Tom, a 19-year-old from Newcastle who had been unemployed for 2 years. He wrote, "I never thought I could travel. I don't have much money, and I've never been anywhere except my hometown. But seeing your journey makes me think maybe I could try. How did you find out about these countries that don't need visas?" Emma stared at Tom's message for a long time. She remembered being exactly where he was, feeling hopeless, thinking that travel was only for rich people, believing that her dreams were impossible. She decided she had to help him and others like him. Emma spent her evenings in Istanbul creating a simple guide about visa-free travel for British citizens. She researched all the countries that welcomed British travelers without visas, found information about budget flights and cheap accommodation, and shared practical tips about traveling safely on a small budget. She posted the guide online for free, hoping it would help people like Tom. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of people downloaded her guide and shared it with their friends. Soon, Emma was connected with a group of young British travelers who wanted to explore together. They created an online group where they shared advice, encouraged each other, and planned trips to visa-free destinations. 3 months after she had started her journey, Emma decided to visit the Maldives. She had saved enough money from her freelance work and was excited to see the beautiful islands she had only seen in pictures. When she arrived at the airport in Mail, she was surprised to meet 3 other British travelers who had been inspired by her story. David was a 28-year-old teacher from Birmingham. He had lost his job 6 months ago and had been struggling with depression. Sophie was a 30-year-old nurse from Cardiff who had been working double shifts for 2 years to pay off her student loans. Robert was a 22-year-old recent graduate from Edinburgh who was unemployed and living with his parents. All 3 of them had read Emma's blog and used her guide to plan their own trips to the Maldives. They were nervous but excited, just as Emma had been on her first journey to Malaysia. "I was in such a dark place after losing my job," David shared as they sat together on the beach, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. "I felt like a failure. But seeing your posts about following dreams despite setbacks made me realize I needed to invest in experiences, not just worry about money all the time." Sophie nodded as she dug her toes into the warm sand. "I've been working double shifts for 2 years, barely taking any time for myself. I almost didn't come because I felt guilty spending money on myself instead of saving it. But this trip is healing something inside me that I didn't even know was broken." Robert was quiet for a moment, then said, "I've been living with my parents since I graduated, feeling like I was wasting my life. Everyone kept telling me to get a real job, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. Being here makes me feel like maybe I can figure things out." Over the next week, the 4 of them explored the beautiful islands together. They snorkeled in crystal clear water, shared meals of fresh fish and tropical fruits, and talked late into the night about their dreams and fears. Emma found herself becoming like a big sister to the group. sharing what she had learned and encouraging them to believe in themselves. When they decided to visit Nepal together, Emma felt like she was traveling with her family. The four of them hiked through the beautiful Himalayas, staying in simple guest houses and eating local food. The mountains were more spectacular than anything Emma had ever imagined. On their last day in Nepal, they climbed to a viewpoint that overlooked the snow-capped peaks. Emma stood there surrounded by her new friends, people whose lives had been touched by her journey, and she had a profound realization. Her purpose was bigger than she had ever imagined. She was not just traveling for herself anymore. She was showing others that they too could break free from whatever was holding them back. Use a warm, empathetic tone. After 6 months of traveling and discovering herself, Emma returned to London, a completely different person from the one who had left. Her small flat looked the same from the outside, but inside, everything had changed. The walls that once displayed travel posters of places she dreamed of visiting were now covered with her own artwork from Malaysia, Turkey, and the Maldives. Photos of her new friends from around the world smiled back at her from every corner. But the most precious decorations were the thank you letters she had received. They came from young people all across Britain who had read her blog, used a travel guide, and found the courage to start their own journeys. Each letter told a story of someone who had felt stuck or hopeless, but had discovered that dreams were possible. After all, Emma spread these letters across her kitchen table. The same table where she had once stared at visa rejection letters with tears in her eyes. Now, instead of rejection, she saw hope. Instead of closed doors, she saw possibilities opening for others. She made a decision that would change not just her life, but the lives of countless others. Emma decided to start a non-profit organization called Doors Without Barriers. The mission was simple but powerful: help young British people discover visa-free travel opportunities and build confidence to explore the world. The first people Emma told about her idea were her parents, Michael and Linda. She invited them to her flat for dinner, nervous about how they would react. When she explained her plan, her father Michael was quiet for a long time. Then, with tears in his eyes, he said something that Emma would never forget. "We're proud of you, love," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've shown us that dreams aren't silly. They're necessary. We were wrong to try to hold you back. Now we want to help you help others." Her mother Linda nodded, wiping away her own tears. "We've watched you grow into someone we barely recognize, but in the best way possible. You've found your purpose, and we want to support you." Emma began organizing monthly meetings in community centers across London. She rented small rooms in libraries, church halls, and local centers, anywhere young people could gather to learn about travel opportunities. She shared practical advice about budget travel, finding cheap flights, staying safe abroad, and most importantly, finding the courage to take that first step. At first, only a few people came to her meetings, but slowly, word spread. Young people who felt stuck in their lives, who thought travel was only for wealthy people, who had given up on their dreams, began to attend. Emma shared her story honestly, including her fears and failures, and people connected with her authenticity. "I was exactly where you are," she would tell each group. "I thought I wasn't good enough, smart enough, or rich enough to see the world. But I learned that the biggest barriers are often the ones we create in our own minds." Her workshops grew from 5 people to 50. She taught them about visa-free countries, showed them how to find budget accommodations, and helped them create travel plans that fit their financial situations. But more than anything, she helped them believe in themselves. One evening, as Emma prepared for another workshop, she received a video call on her laptop. The caller's name was Tom. The 19-year-old from Newcastle who had first reached out to her months ago. When she accepted the call, she saw Tom's face beaming with happiness. Behind him was a beautiful cityscape she recognized as Qatar. "Emma, I can't thank you enough," Tom said, his voice filled with joy and gratitude. "I never thought someone like me could do something like this. I'm working as a volunteer English teacher here in Qatar, and I'm learning so much about myself and the world. Your story showed me that the only limits are the ones we put on ourselves." Emma felt tears of happiness rolling down her cheeks. This was exactly why she had started her organization. Tom's transformation reminded her of her own journey from despair to hope. The following month, Emma found herself back at Heathrow Airport. But this time, she wasn't carrying a suitcase or checking in for a flight. Instead, she was waiting at the arrivals gate, holding a sign that read "Doors without barriers, welcome home." She was there to welcome back a group of young travelers she had mentored: David, Sophie, Robert, and several others who had attended her workshops and then embarked on their own adventures. As she watched them walk through the arrival doors, their faces glowing with confidence and joy, Emma realized something profound. Her greatest journey wasn't about the countries she had visited or the stamps in her passport. It was about the doors she had helped others open. David was now planning to become a travel blogger like James, the man who had inspired Emma in Malaysia. Sophie had decided to work as a volunteer nurse in different countries. Robert had discovered his passion for photography during his travels and was starting his own business. Even more wonderful, all of them were now helping other young people plan their own adventures. Tom was mentoring teenagers in Newcastle through video calls from Qatar. The ripple effect was spreading hope and possibility across communities throughout Britain. As Emma walked through the airport terminal, she looked up at the departure board. She saw flights to Malaysia, Turkey, Maldives, Qatar, Mauritius, Nepal, dozens of other destinations. Each name represented not just a place on the map, but a possibility waiting to be discovered. Each destination was a door waiting to be opened by someone brave enough to walk through it. The end.